Orange juice and toothpaste are both good for you, but when one follows the other, it makes for a tangy and distasteful experience. That's what it's like being around some people.
Hello, Newman.
We've all had to deal with them at one point or another, and so have our F1 friends. So today we're ranking the top 5 most hated F1 drivers. Our drivers will be ranked by the orange juice and toothpaste scale accordingly, with number 1 being the worst. And trust me, they're the worst. I actually did learn a lot making this video, especially about the opinions of older F1 drivers towards one another in previous eras. Unlike today, no feelings were spared back then, and the trash talk was pretty much the norm. I think it's a cool part of Formula One history if anybody's interested in digging into that a little bit more. Anyways, determining which drivers are the most hated isn't exactly a hard and fast science.
That's all for now from Muppet Labs.
Or is it? Maybe the orange juice and toothpaste scale is science. Let's dig in a little bit more. After all, I did take into consideration things like factual evidence, unvetted hearsay, and personal opinion. Now, we do have a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna are legendary and were both known for being aggressive and at times crossing the line. But if you weren't a fan of theirs during their heyday, you definitely added them to your hate list. Both crashing into their opponents when the World Championship was on the line. Actually, Schumacher did it twice. And the second time, it didn't work out so well for him as he didn't crash into Jacques Villeneuve hard enough, resulting in Villeneuve winning the championship in '97. But during their eras, Schumacher and Senna definitely had their fair share of haters, and for good reason. But we won't go into that in this video. And today, as most of us know, they're remembered fondly overall by the general F1 fan base. The other honorable mention being Lewis Hamilton. Perhaps not in his early career, but it's not uncommon for him to be booed by throngs of crowds during post-race interviews, especially during the 2021 season. But try as these guys might, they didn't quite make the orange juice and toothpaste list. So let's get things started with number 5 on our list. We have Alain Prost. The Senna film definitely portrays him in a negative light, but Prost didn't necessarily do a lot of things on track or off track, but it was more like a combination of actions and how he handled himself and his, well, opinions. He often trash-talked his own team and was fired by both Renault and Ferrari. I mean, throw your own people under the bus and see what happens. And it doesn't help when your nickname is the Professor. The Professor. That ain't cool. It could have been Prost the Boss, but no, he got the one nickname that embodied boring arrogance. Put the Professor side by side to Ayrton Senna, and guess which one fans are gonna think is the villain. So that's how it went. Take him out of the Senna rivalry and you might get a totally different situation, because he did indeed have fans. If he was really that bad, he wouldn't still be in the F1 circles like some other drivers on our list. In fact, I think a lot of the hatred towards Alain Prost is unwarranted. That's not to say it still doesn't exist or it never existed, but I think people who are overly meticulous, thorough, and dry are easily disliked, especially for fickle fans, and fans definitely did not like Alain Prost. In fact, they straight up harassed him, to include burning 2 of his own cars in front of him and leaving him death threats. So yeah, dude is pretty hated, warranted or not. But before we move on to number 4, I wanted to say thank you to everyone for watching and subscribing to the channel as I try and grow it. I just want to let you guys know what I'm thinking in the near term. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'd like to start doing post-race live streams. Now, whether or not they're the Sunday immediately following a race or that Monday, I think it'd be a great way for everyone to engage on the channel. I'll still create the usual videos, but the live stream would allow us to engage about current F1 events that much quicker and easier. And I think it'd be a lot of fun. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Formula Kickass, and we can get some things started there. And don't forget to like and subscribe here on YouTube. And back to the list. Coming in at number 4 on the orange juice and toothpaste scale is Fernando Alonso. Alonso's been a part of not one but 2 major Formula One scandals. How is he still allowed in the F1 car is beyond me. The McLaren Spygate scandal of 2007 found them in possession of sensitive Ferrari technical information. The team was fined $100 million. $1 million! And suspended from the Constructors' Championship. But did Alonso get fired? Nope. He and then teammate Lewis Hamilton got to continue on with the Drivers' Championship. Weird, huh? And then a super classy move, he threatened McLaren boss Ron Dennis with releasing information to the FIA that would have been damaging to the team. So you can add blackmail to the list as well. And the very next year at the Singapore Grand Prix, the very next year, we get Crashgate. Teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. intentionally wrecking to cause a safety car at the perfect moment so Alonso could take the lead in the race after he'd already conveniently pitted. All Alonso had to do was stay in first for the rest of the race and to take the win, which he did. Yet somehow, Alonso was exempt from punishment for Crashgate when everyone else involved was crushed by the FIA. Quite the coincidence, right? There's no way Fernando Alonso did not know the strategy for the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. Anyways, Alonso left the sport in 2018. And somehow, like WTF mate, he returned in 2021 after a 20-month hiatus. Has anyone even heard of that? Think about all of the F2 drivers ready to move up into Formula One, and this guy who's already had a successful career, riddled with scandals, comes in basically out of retirement and takes it out from underneath you. That's Fernando Alonso. Think about all the dodgy backroom deals that have been made for this guy. Anyways, moving on to number 3 on our list, we have Mr. Nelson Piquet Jr. himself, mainly because the guy intentionally pops off at the mouth and attacks other people in the worst ways possible, calling Ayrton Senna a Sao Paulo taxi driver, Nigel Mansell an uneducated blockhead. Once a journalist asked him, "Who's the best, you or Senna?" and he said, "I'm alive." Think about that for a second.
You are a rude, terrible person.
Then made a bunch of excuses for not showing up at fellow Brazilian Ayrton Senna's funeral. Not a good look, dude. Not to mention calling Nigel Mansell's wife ugly and consistently insulting Mansell himself. No, Nelson Piquet didn't have a fan base that reflected his skills and accomplishments. After all, he was a 3-time world champion, 81, 83, and 87. You know, when he wasn't getting out of his car and punching and kicking his opponents. Nelson definitely has that calls it like he sees it attitude and straightforward style, but he absolutely deliberately makes inflammatory comments. Now, whether he believes them or hides behind them or not, I don't know. I'm sure he's nursed plenty of black eye in his day. Maybe it's all to generate press. After all, bad press is still press, but it certainly isn't going to make you likable. Weirdly enough, he's also known for practical jokes on other drivers, but dude, if they don't think it's funny, cut it out. And our runner-up coming in at number 2, we have Andrea De Santis. This guy was crash-prone to the nth degree, and that's an understatement. When Cesaris crashed, it was dramatic to say the least, and he was renowned for ruining other people's races. In fact, it got so bad that in Imola in 1990, James Hunt called it a disgrace that Cesaris should be allowed to continue to interfere with Grand Prix racing because he spoils a race for the drivers and the spectators. That's pretty harsh. Between 1980 and 1994, De Santis had 147 retirements. To put this into perspective, Ayrton Senna had 60, but that was between 1984 and 1994, including his final accident. De Santis even earned himself the nickname Andrea De Crasheris, not necessarily the indelible mark you want to leave for your life's work. Then again, Pastor Maldonado had 42 crashes during his 5-year career, so there's that. And finishing off our orange juice and toothpaste list, the one driver that gives everyone a sour face, the guy we've all been waiting for, the Voldemort, the Darth Vader, the Newman of Formula One is Nikita Mazepin. I have yet to see a single F1 fan support Nikita Mazepin. Fans really don't like him. Nikita Mazepin started his F1 career by drunk groping a female friend of his in the backseat of a car while they're out partying, then posted to social media for all the world to see. Now, the victim was apparently a long-standing friend of his who came to his defense when the event came to light. Now, the two may have had a friendship where they horse around like that. For all intents and purposes, for all we know, she could have kicked him in the cash and prizes right before they got in the car. But she seems to have been protecting her own skin from, let's say, Russian retribution. But once Mazepin did finally hit the track, he just showed a pattern of unnecessary aggression towards other drivers, including his own teammate Mick Schumacher. I mean, the 2021 Haas car had no business being on the same track as the other F1 cars in the first place. I don't know what he was thinking. The one example that stands out to me is Mazepin pushing Schumacher into the pit lane at the 2021 Dutch Grand Prix, giving his own teammate wing damage and ruining Mick's race. I could probably do an entire video just on Nikita Mazepin, and I just might. He was just that bad for Haas and Formula One in general. If you're not an established F1 driver, dude, you just got here, and you're gonna act like that? Who do you think you are, Alan Prost? Needless to say, given the recent Russia-Ukraine conflict, Haas fired Mazepin. And if you weren't aware, Nikita Mazepin's father, Dmitry Mazepin, is a multi-billionaire Russian oligarch, known to have close ties to Vladimir Putin, mainly because Dmitry Mazepin's companies bring in a significant amount of income for the Russian government. Reasonable people can't be associated with that. But dude still has beef with Formula One and the Haas team. Haas apparently kept the Earl Colley sponsorship money without honoring their end of the contract period. Of course, contracts in Formula One aren't worth the paper they're printed on. But what do you guys think? Have we seen the end of Nikita Mazepin? Or could we see him make a comeback after the geopolitical climate cools off? I'm thinking no, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. But be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. And please leave a comment below on who your personal most hated F1 driver is of all time. Thanks for coming by, and I'll see you in the next one.